Hi, this is your lecture for pages 59 through 67, and this is also your lesson for September 28th. So today we're going to be talking about the Indian subcontinent. Now, the Indian subcontinent is not just India. As you can see here, it's multiple different countries, and we'll be getting into that in just a few moments. But it's important to note that the Indian subcontinent, because of its geography, because of the fact that it has mountains and other unique geographical features, this area of the world developed a very unique culture. And because of the geography, it was not often overtaken by outside forces. So, for instance, China or Russia or the Muslim nations of the Middle East have not been able to um, take over the Indian subcontinent. And this has to do with geography. And if you look at history, a lot of history is determined by geography of a place. So, just for another example, very quickly, one of the reasons why America was able to win the American Revolution was because of the fact that there was a huge ocean in between England and the colonies, and so that colonies had time to prepare. That's just another example. Okay, but let's continue to talk a little bit about the Indian subcontinent. The Indian subcontinent consists of three major land areas. We have the Himalayan mountain system, northern plains, and the Deccan Plateau. The Himalayas, of course, contain the highest mountain range, the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. And these mountains are important because of the fact that the ice and snow that covers these mountains melts and feeds the subcontinent's three main rivers, which would be, of course, Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra. And these rivers are important because they help water the rest of the subcontinent. The climate in the Indian subcontinent is, in the mountain area, a highland climate, and in most of the subcontinent, there's a tropical savanna climate. And so the tropical savanna climate contains very interesting weather patterns. And this is going to include cool, dry winters, hot, dry springs, and then hot, wet summers. And when you think of monsoons, you probably think of the hot, wet summer aspect of the the tropical savanna climate, which when there's a lot of rain. And some regions get as much as 450 inches of rain a year, which is a lot. It's also important to recognize that sometimes there are droughts, and then there's not any kind of water. So the weather in India is rather extreme. So let's just focus really quickly on the countries that make up the Indian subcontinent. We have India right here. Then we have Pakistan. Then we have Nepal. Then we have Bhutan, which is right here. And we have Sri Lanka, and then the Maldives. Maldives, excuse me, Maldives. And then you can see that there are other countries in this area, but these are the seven main countries. And then we have flags, too, for these countries. Okay. So the Indian civilization developed shortly after the flooding of the Indus Valley. And this civilization, archaeologists have found, have advanced cultural aspects to it. Some places even had some places even had advanced plumbing. Okay, so let's look at page 61 of your book, which is Southern Asia. It's just basically talking about the types of animals and vegetation in Southern Asia. So just take a look at that so you know what you're in for. Okay, so we're going to talk about India. So India is a country that is very diverse. There are 700 different languages and dialects. And not only are the dialects and the languages diverse, but we also have a variety of religions there: Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and Hinduism. And we also see a mixture of Eastern heritage and English culture, which this has to do, of course, the English culture comes in because India used to be a former colony of the British Empire. There are over 1 billion people who live in this country, which makes it the second most populous nation in the world. So India is right here. The Republic of India, India, is rather large, as you can see. Here are a few pictures that I wanted to show you of places in India. Here you can see religious figures. Mahatma Gandhi right here is one of the most famous. You can see here children are eating. They have little plates that are made of vegetation. You can see it's like a giant leaf. You can see that India has snow-capped mountains, and it also has green, lush fields and valleys. So this has to do with the huge range of miles that India covers, and of course the two different climates that are part of the Indian subcontinent that also influence India itself. So in India, culture is dominated by religion, and it's also dominated, because it's dominated by the Hindu religion, it's dominated by ethnic and linguistic differences. The population consists of numerous ethnic groups. Most of them have hundreds of languages and dialects that they speak. But the most widely spoken language in India is Hindi. More than 4/5 of the Indian population are Hindus, followers of the oldest religion in India. There are minorities of religion in India. We have Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, and Buddhists. Hinduism and Buddhism both came from India versus Islam, which came from the Mongols in the 1500s, and Christianity, which came with the British in the 1700s. But India is divided within herself based upon the traditional Hindu observance of caste, which is a strict division of the social classes, and you're about to watch a video about that. So pause the video and take a moment to watch and complete the Ed puzzle on the caste system. So poverty is a huge problem in India, and this has to do with several factors. Firstly, the caste system. Secondly, we have socialistic policies that are detrimental to the Indian culture and economy. So it's the caste system and socialistic policies. It's not because there's a lot of people there, because overpopulation is not actually a problem if you have good programs in place to help the people. But since the caste system divides people, and since socialistic policies is actually all about making the government more powerful, India is in a plight for sure. India's capital and largest city is New Delhi. It is pictured here. You can see that it has very unique, beautiful architecture. So Hinduism in India is a huge problem. It fosters a spirit of resistance toward Western technology, and it has a superstitious regard for animal and plant life. This has to do with the fact that they believe in reincarnation, and so they believe that animals and plants could be reincarnated people. They also believe that bulls and cows are sacred. So these cows and these bulls roam the city streets, and people are literally around them starving, and the cows don't have to worry about being eaten because of the superstition in the Hindu belief system. But the people definitely have to worry about starving and having lots of issues with food. Socialism is also a factor because of the fact that socialism oppresses private enterprise and foreign investments and promotes state control of key industries within the country. So Mahatma Gandhi believed British colonizers ruined India by introducing free market enterprise and Christianity, and he believed that if the Indian people just returned back to their Hindu beliefs, and if they were just as organic and agrarian as they could possibly be and had very little to do with technology, then the country would prosper, which is not true. The country is not prospering based upon such beliefs. Unfortunately, not everyone agrees with him, and some entrepreneurship has developed in India. So it's important to know that there are missionary efforts to reach the Indian people for Christ. On page 64, you can read about two famous missionaries, William Carey and Amy Carmichael, who went to India to try and reach the people there. And their stories are equally inspiring and show God's love for the nations. Here's Gandhi. I just wanted you to see a picture of him close up because of the fact that he's such an influential figure in the culture of India. So India is largely agrarian in its culture, in its economy, and they use railroad tracks to carry their produce. The railroad is the legacy of the British and is one of the world's largest. Unfortunately, there is an example of state inefficiency in the railroad system because of the fact that the state-operated rail system has different types of tracks. And so some tracks are larger than others, some are smaller, and so at some point the train has to stop because of the tracks are not they're not able to meet because of the size differences. So the cash crops in India are coffee, tea, and rubber. For them, livestock is also very important. But again, remember they do not slaughter livestock in India. Cattle are kept for dairy production, so they get milk from them, but and they can make cheese. But other than that, the cost for keeping them is high. India also has mineral resources like iron ore, coal, oil, and gemstones that helps add to its economy. Unfortunately, the government controls most of everything, and therefore the country itself is not becoming richer. Tourism is not major in India, but it does have some natural and historical sites that people like to go see. For instance, the Taj Mahal, which you can see pictured here. And of course, the Taj Mahal is famous because it is actually a tomb for a favorite wife of a Mongol emperor. Okay, so let's talk briefly about Pakistan and Bangladesh. Pakistan and Bangladesh are located northwest and northeast of Indian Peninsula, and the two countries differ very greatly. They were one nation before 1971, but they divided based upon religious beliefs. On this slide, you can see a few characteristics of Pakistan. So if you want to, you can pause and look at it. So before the British left in 1947, India decided to partition northeastern province of Bengal and northwestern province of Punjab. Punjab was designed to create a haven for Muslims, and the result of this was East and West Pakistan. In the following years, there was a great migration, and the Indian Muslims went to Pakistan and the Hindus to India. And because of this, there was a huge ethnic and cultural tension, and this eventually resulted in East Pakistan becoming Bangladesh. So Pakistan's population is very similar to India. Like I was saying, the culture in Pakistan is very similar to India, and it has various ethnic groups. And we're going to pause there and continue in the next video.